there, everyone. My name's Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo, and I'll be bringing you some fireside chats with a number of executives from Inspiro. Inspiro, of course, is an outsourcing specialist with over 32,000 customer champions across 51 strategic locations. They deliver multilingual, end-to-end, value-driven CX solutions. The company was founded back in 2002, and today it spans across 4 continents: North America, Latin America, Australia, and the Asia Pacific region, which of course includes the Philippines. So right now, I'm going to be chatting with Vibhav Sharma. He is a vice president, and he is a country lead in Australia and New Zealand. Vibhav, welcome.
Hi, Ria. Glad to be here.
All right, you are coming to us all the way from Sydney, Australia. It is such a beautiful city. For you, what is it like living there? What do you like to do?
So Sydney is, as you know, is a bit of a blessed place. So a lot of people know Sydney for the lovely beaches and the harbour area. But Sydney is, to me, much more than that. It has got a real good soul. It's got a beautiful topography, and it's a very, very vibrant and a multicultural city. I've lived here for the past 11 years, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. Been on the outback and done a lot of camping and done a lot of boating as well. It's a fantastic, and this time of the year when it's winter and it's summer everywhere else in the world, we do love our skiing, and it's like a 5 hour drive if you want to get on a ski or a snowboard.
Right, and you're really near wine country as well, which must be nice.
That's right. Hunter Valley is one of the beautiful areas. So yeah, there are a lot of wineries around, and from a topographical standpoint, if you take a helicopter ride, it's sublime and beautiful.
Okay, something to put on your bucket list, I guess. Now, you've been in Australia, like you said, for over a decade. What has your experience been in the BPO industry?
Look, from an overall standpoint, I think Australia is one of the earlier countries to jump on board in the outsourcing journey. If you look at financial institutions, yeah, big banks, they have been in the outsourcing industry, and they've been using the outsourcing services for the past 15 to 17 years, right? Which, if you compare to other countries, is quite a mature stage. So my experience with most of the financial and non-financial industries here has been that while there are some industries which are still greenfield, most of the Australia is quite open and is quite know-how of the outsourcing industry. So they've really enjoyed and taken the benefit of it, I think.
Right. That being the case, do you believe it is still a viable strategy for Australian companies today, given that they've been using it for such a long time?
That's a very good question, Ria. I mean, if you look at from an evolution standpoint, the needle is really moving out of what we call as BPO 1.0 to about BPO 3.0, right? What that means is that while earlier the primary driver of actually outsourcing has been cost and labor arbitrage, now the needle is moving out to become value arbitrage. So clients are expecting outsourcing partners to deliver not only, cheaper, faster, but they're also looking in creating center of excellence and center of hubs where deep domain expertise exists. So, the journey to me, as I look at it, and in the world of digital disruption, it is just getting started.
Wow. So many ways to grow. I guess. So, but what are the functions that are normally outsourced, and from what types of industries are they?
Look, from a functional standpoint, the first cab of ranks for any organization, if they want to dip their toe in outsourcing, would be something which is non-customer facing. And that's where we've seen generally most of the industries and organizations start with. So whether it's finance functions or HRO functions or payroll functions, which are not customer facing, which are internal to them, they would try to dip their toe because there is minimal customer impact. So as they get on the journey, they see value of it, then they start to open up and move up the value chain to move, customer services and other functions decision-making functions as well to outsourced locations.
All right. So traditionally, you would say they start off with the non-customer facing functions and eventually, they see the value, the company evolves, and then they do shift to something a bit more frontline. Is that right?
That's correct. So as in when they also develop their confidence with the service provider, with the industry, especially if they are first-time outsourcers, they would start with typically these functions and move up. Coming back to your second question or second part of the question in terms of the industries that you spoke about, I think the top three industries which are very, very high as far as propensity to outsource and offshore, I would say is financial services. And when I say financial services, it means both the insurance companies as well as big banks here, telecom industry to a large extent, and as well as a lot of retail industry. So these are the ones which are, have actually had a lot of experience in outsourcing and offshoring and have leveraged a lot of partners in and around, and global footprint to kind of follow the sun or chase the sun, as they say, to deliver exceptional value to their own customers.
So why do you think it's these type of industries that likes to outsource? Why do you think outsourcing works for, the worlds of finance, banking, insurance, telecom, and retail?
So one of the reasons why it does work very well is that most of the functions right now, because of the maturity of outsourcing and offshoring and the whole BPO industry, all these functions have been commoditized. What I mean by commoditized is that if you go and do accounts payable or accounts receivable or customer service for any part of the world, accounts payable will remain accounts payable. So the functions basic to it will stay the same, irrespective of which geo you are looking at or which market you are looking at or which industry. So most of the functions that we see that typically offer these as BPO services, they are both industry agnostic and as well as geo agnostic. So that's why there is a heavy lean in terms of moving them over faster and in a more efficient way.
All right. And would you say that's true also for retail?
Well, retail is an interesting one, Ria, because retail, what we've seen is specifically in Australia and New Zealand, while retail has dipped their toes early in the game to leverage a lot of BPO providers, I still feel that there is a lot of headroom before hitting glass ceiling in terms of leveraging their partners, because I don't think retail has moved up the value chain to the extent the financial services and telecom have, in terms of getting more value from their partners or vendors from an offshore location. So I think retail is towards the more other end of their value chain. There is still greenfield areas that can be explored.
Right. Now, I want to talk about industries that traditionally don't outsource. Why do you think outsourcing would not be an option for those industries?
Well, industries that don't typically offshore is by the inherent nature of the industries, because they would not have more functions which are exist in what we call as a shared services format, right? If you typically look at mining industries or oil industries, these will very, very have low footprint because their focus is more around feet on street and actual manufacturing process, right? So anything which moves away from services industry is not a good candidate, right? But having said that, Australia is also unique in some of the industries where other markets have a lot of outsourcing maturity and Australia does not, right? Let me give you an example. Is the healthcare industry. Now, all around the world, healthcare is become very, very central in terms of the functions and in terms of the processes that are performed. If you compare that with Australia and New Zealand, healthcare industry and BPO, when it comes to that, is nobody's even scratched the surface. And the big reason behind that is a lack of what we call as digitized medical records. And Australia still operates in a paper-based environment, and they are slowly moving, in the next 12 to 18 months, all the hospitals, all the care providers, and all the networks, including pharmacies, will move into what we call as a DMR or digitized medical records movement. Once that happens, the propensity and the opportunity it will throw will be immense. So I think healthcare is one of the ones which are very, very unique to Australia, having not done much.
Right. That sounds like it's going to be an explosion, actually. Right?
That's what we are hoping for, yes.
Huge opportunities there. So aside from what you mentioned, how else would you assess the demand for outsourcing services in light of this global pandemic that we're right in the middle of?
Look, as you know, Australia has been hit. It's been a bit of a double whammy for us, especially with the second stage of COVID, which the Victorians are still feeling, and the whole country is rallying behind them. So it is difficult times. I think from an overall standpoint, COVID has affected the BPO industry to a large extent. And the reason for that is a lot of companies, specifically who are looking at small and medium enterprises, they are currently just assessing the fact of not taking on big projects, projects which require time and effort. Currently, they're focused on maintaining their bottom line and top line, right? At the same time, on the flip side of it, COVID has encouraged a lot of organizations to sincerely have a good look at their bottom line and look at various other opportunities to reduce their cost to the market. And one of the ways that you could do it is through leveraging a partner, right? So it's been a both. I would say it's been, from a pandemic standpoint, there are been organizations who've been willing to explore and change the way that they were doing business. Others have gone a little bit nervous, and rightly so. But once this cloud is behind us, I expect things to get better.
Right. That's certainly a great way to look at it. But going back to the potential growth in the health industry, and it partnering up or utilizing more of the BPO industry, how quickly can something like that be developed? Because as you said, in Australia, they're still using very analog ways of keeping their medical records.
Yeah, I think from an overall standpoint, I think we can start with a very fast MVP, minimum valuable proposition. An MVP in healthcare can be a very, very good option to start with. We at Inspiro have got a very, start due diligence process where we can, conduct an art of the possible, and within 2 workshops, basically come back with where all the areas that we could help the client with and turn around their business. And we've got a lot of case studies where we've helped clients start their business up in our offshore location in less than 6 weeks, right? So we are up and ready to go. It's just that once we do get into the format of having electronic medical records, I think we'll be firing on all our cylinders.
Wow, 6 weeks. That's, I'm no BPO expert, but that sounds really impressive to get that done.
Yeah, that is by BPO standards. That is a very, very aggressive as well. But look, as an organization, we are very, very nimble, and we are very, very agile as well at the same time. So I think that is one of our key differentiators in the market, and we certainly work it to our advantage there.
All right. Vibhav, for you, what are the preferred sites for outsourcing today?
Look, from an outsourcing, as you know, as the world of outsourcing has developed and matured, very, very geo-specific, expertise is now being created, what we call a center of excellence. If you look at, various countries, India has come up with a lot of financial services and back office and more transaction processing and non-voice type of providers of geo. And if you look at Philippines over the last, specifically for Australia, Philippines has always been a destination for voice, right? The cultural alignment, the accent neutralization, the timeline in terms of the time zones that Australia and Philippines work on, it becomes a very, very viable site. And that's why you see most of the Australian businesses, when it comes to voice, have huge presence in whether in the third-party environment or in a captive environment. There was very, very strong representation across all industries in Australia.
Yeah, time zones are a big factor.
Yeah.
Speaking of Australian businesses, could you highlight how some of the big names in Australian business have benefited from outsourcing?
Look, if I look at financial services, Australia has a four-pillar, four-bank policy. Three out of those four banks currently use BPO providers and also have their own captive. So ANZ and National Australia Bank and Westpac have that. If you move to insurance, Insurance Australia Group, QBE, Suncorp, all, which is close to about, I'm saying 85% of the financial services business here, they use BPO providers. And the value that it is driven in terms of giving an end-to-end solution, as well as making sure that these organizations focus on what's core to them, whereas all the periphery functions can be managed by a partner. So it's really is a win-win situation. And big organizations have also invested in making sure that the cultural alignment to their clients is the same. So let me take an example. If you walk into any of our centers, Inspiro centers in Manila, the way that that you will feel that you're actually in the client's back office or a shared service organization. A lot of our employees feel connected more, saying that we work for that client rather than saying that we work for Inspiro, right? So that's a big change in terms of the way that the culture is and the customer centricity that we offer.
Right. Very, very important for the customers to feel the culture of the company and the brand, no matter who they're speaking to, whether it's somebody directly in the company or somebody who's outsourced. So,
That's right.
This is a year that nobody has ever seen, right? Whether you work in health, in business, BPO, what can we look forward to from what you are doing for Inspiro for the rest of the year?
So look, for the rest of the year, we've got a lot of interest from small and medium enterprise businesses. Like I said, the focus of this year is to make sure that the organizations are resilient to these changes. These are unprecedented times, like you said, and very, very tough times for both organizations and service providers like us. But we've battled our way through in terms of dealing and managing it. If you look at, lockdowns and the way that we've continued to give services to the client, we've taken less than 5 to 7 days to kind of create that whole infrastructure to support work from home or to help clients to make sure that there is zero disruption to the services and their customer. I think these times have tested both service providers and clients alike. I think the way forward is that once I think the worst is behind us, frankly. And as we move forward, I think there is a better understanding in terms of ways of working. The other thing that this has done is that it has just catapulted the digital transformation, right? We used to talk about a year back saying, one day we will not need to come to the office and work from home, right? And that was an utopian kind of a dream, right? Now, the only silver lining that we can see out of this whole COVID situation is that it has actually accelerated the digital transformation. It has accelerated us to things that we would not typically do in our comfort zone. So it's thrown us out of the comfort zone. And as an output of that, we have now learned to deal with this situation. We know we can be up and running, and we do not need physical infrastructure to make sure that we make our clients successful.
All right, really adapting quickly is the name of the game. Vibhav, thank you so much for speaking with me. I've learned a lot, and we look forward to seeing what comes out of Australia and New Zealand. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ria. Pleasure talking to you.